these faders right here are what control the volume to the main speakers. So if you bring those up and you unmute them, the volume will come out, the sound will come out of the main speakers, which anyway, you can't see right now because it's dark. But and to change different things about each one of the speakers, you hit the select button that you see up here, and you can change different things. You can change the gain, and the gain controls how sensitive the microphone is. If you turn the gain all the way down to 0, it's not going to hear a freight train go by, right? But if you turn the gain all the way up, it's going to hear a fly buzzing in China, more or less. We have our gate right here. A gate is sort of like a minimum requirement, where you have to have a minimum amount of volume for the microphone to pick up and put out, if that makes sense. And so if we look at it here, it is not active right now. So if we hit active, and then we bring it up like this, what this is doing is it's saying it has to get to that point right there for it to even pick up. A compression, let's see here. So what a compression does is it gives a maximum volume level that the microphone can pick up or put out. So this is often useful with mics that people have on their faces, or even if it's a handheld mic. What this does is if their voice starts distorting at this line up here, what you can do is you can use the threshold to excuse me, to limit the amount that they can put out, thus making it, giving it better microphone quality and making it so it doesn't buzz or things like that. Good. Okay, so if we come over here to the equalizing section, this is a way we can change the way the mic picks up and puts out sound. So we have four different, modes right here that we can select, areas we can take out. And then we have our modes of equalization over here that we can change. I don't know a ton about this. I know that if you that it's useful for if someone is singing or they're talking very loud, and often it's when it's very loud or very high. What happens is the microphone will sort of make a buzzing noise and the sound quality won't be great because there's a certain frequency that makes the microphone buzz or causes feedback. What you can do is you can come over here and let's select high. And you can come over here and you can take the gain down. Now, if we take our gain right here, use this knob right here, which you can also use over here. But if you use that knob, you can drop out certain frequencies. Now, you move it into a certain frequency. Let's say for some reason 4K is 4K is causing the feedback. You can go in and you can go like that, drop it down, and then if it's a very specific frequency, you can use the thickness knob to take it down to a very small frequency. Now this is, like I said, this is useful if you need to drop out just a specific frequency. And you can move it around, and oftentimes what happens with our microphones here is all of the handheld mics, or body pack mics and the handheld mics as well, have to have an up here at the end, as you can see right here, because without it their voice sounds dull and low and doesn't sound very clean and crisp. But what we do is we bring up these high frequencies right here that allow us to make their voice sound better through the microphone system. So you go through each one of these. If you can see, as I push low, it goes down to this one here. If I push low mid, it goes to 2, 3, and 4. So that's how you adjust that for a microphone. And you can do that for any of these microphones and any of the inputs, if that makes sense. So now I'm going to talk about buses, okay? So what a bus is it's a way that we send the signal out to our auxiliary speakers or our other speakers that are not the two mains out here. So the way you control how much each channel goes out to a certain speaker is you come over here to the buses, you hit select, and then you hit this little button right here that says sends on fader. So what that does is it changes the display to show how much each of these channels is coming through that particular one. Okay? So this is what it's like before, right? Because all these are muted coming through the house. You get sends on fader. All of these are unmuted, except for that one, but all of them are down at 0, right? Or negative infinity. So this one right here, you can see, is coming through our empty speaker, which we don't have anything on, at +5. So that means whatever it's at when it's not, which is like this, it's going to be coming +10, what it would normally be, through that particular speaker. So, if you come over here, we select pit monitor, and we still have the sends on fader. You don't have to, it just stays on once you click it, so you can, so if we select this bus number 2, which is our pit monitors for our speakers we have down at the lip of the stage. And so you hit sends on fader, and what that does is we can see that this is the only one that's coming through, +10, and all of these are down, but the track is up down here on this third page. This is where the computer comes through. And so that's the way you adjust everything that comes through that one speaker. Well, let's say we have, let's say, because I'm on microphone number 6 here, let's say I select this one. This shows me what buses I'm coming through here. So what this does is I hit select sends on fader, and it shows me that I'm muted on all the buses except for the video bus, and so that means I'm not going to come out of anywhere except for the mains and that bus for whatever speaker that's hooked up to. In this case, it's hooked up to a camera that we use to film productions here. So the way in so these are our auxiliary inputs right here. We have aux 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then our USB. So all of these are linked together. These two are an additional aux that we don't use because we don't have a cord for it and we don't need it. This one right here is for the DVD player, which is over there. And then this one here, right here, aux 5, aux 6, this red one, is for the computer, or any other device that we plug in through the aux port up here. So what we do is, these are all linked together. So if you bring one fader up, it brings them both up, because we have one centered all the way left, one all the way right, so we can get a really good stereo signal to help with some sound quality. The USB left and right, if you look up here, there is a USB recorder, and what you can do is you can plug a USB drive right here, and you can play tracks off of it. You can record stuff to it, which is usually what we do for audio version of a show. But what happens is when you play something off of the USB, it comes through these two right here. Now these right here are the effects racks. These have to deal with our effects buses over here, which I'll get to in a few minutes. But note that these two always work together, they're always linked. So right here we have our DCAs, as I said before. So what a DCA is, it's a digitally controlled amplifier. So the way it works is if you link certain things to a DCA. So the way we see what is linked to a DCA is we hold the select button. Now if you see over here, these three lights came on when I pushed that select button. This one, it's these three. And the way you change is you hold down the select button and you push other select buttons, and they'll light up and stay lit up. And that shows you what channels are linked to this DCA, which I'll explain how that works in a minute. Then we have our lapel mics, which are all of these right here on DCA number 3. And on DCA number 4, we have our handhelds. And then recently I made our input master, which is everything that comes into the board. This is useful for if we have someone working on the board and we get a lot of feedback and we need to turn it off real quick. You can just drag down the input master and it goes away. We also have a bus master, which is which all these are linked through, which is used for if everything's just a little too loud, we want to keep the particular mix that we have, but we just need to bring everything down. So what a DCA does is, let's take for example the lapels. So I'm going to make a mix right here just for the sake of argument. Let's say that is our particular mix that we need. So let's say that the director says, oh, it's too loud, or we're just getting a little bit of feedback from everybody when they come on stage. Instead of going like this and bringing them all down like that, you can take the DCA that they're all attached to. You can see right here that they're all attached to this one, and then you can just take this down 5 or 10 or however much you need, and it will keep the exact same mix, but it will bring everything down by that much. It's very useful for shows that where you can set all the mics, and if everything's just a little too loud, you can just take it down. It's really useful for stuff like that. Okay. So what we have right here, these green little screens are matrices. Now what a matrix is a way I like to describe it, is a bus send for a bus, if that makes sense. So it's almost like a secondary way of sending something out. So what we use it for is if we need to send something out. Like I know that in some professional theaters they'll use matrices to have what are called lobby fills, and that's where they take the sound from the mix that's coming out of the mains and put it into the lobby, so people that go out into the lobby for whatever reason can still hear what's going on in the show, and they can know what's going on when they come back in. But what we use them for is we use it for our video teacher. When he comes in and he videotapes the shows, we will give him a matrix output so he can record the audio that comes out of the mains. So the way this works is you hit select. I'm going to use the mains right now. So you hit select, and then you hit sends on fader. And then these will all light up. So you hit it up right here, it has a left, right, and then an arrow, and then it shows the little matrix thing right here. So right now, we only have matrix 1 and matrix 2 programmed. You have to program each one of them if you want to use it. So, but the matrix send is not just for the mains; it is also for all of the buses. So if you want if you want another send for the bus, like you can just take the right like right here, for instance, is the right monitor. You can hit sends on fader, and you can bring it all the way up in this one, and now whatever mics are coming through there is now coming through here. So hopefully that made sense. Okay. So if we hit select, this is how you would program a matrix into an output, so that way someone can use it. So the way, like I said, the way the matrix works is it draws off of the buses and the mains, and then we send it out of another output out here in the back of the board. So what you do is you hit select, just so you know that's the one you're working with. And then you come up here to routing. Okay. So you hit the routing button, and then you'll come up with home right here. Then you come out to 1 through 16. Now, I don't know what any of the other stuff, this other stuff does, but I want to mess with it just because that's then dealing with other things that we don't even need to use, and it could cause problems. But what you do is you come to out 1 through 16. Now you use this first knob right here to select which output you're looking for. Now if you just start right here, on this one right here, it's going to tell you what channel, what bus or send is coming out of that output. So output 1, mix bus 1 is coming out. Output 2, mix bus 2 is coming out. And so on and so forth, all the way down to output 7 and output 8. And output 9, we have bus 9 coming out. And then output 10 is a little different. So you see what you can do is you select this one, you go up here to category, and let's say that I needed it to be matrix 3 instead of matrix 1. What you do is you come over here to the assign knob right here. You come down to whichever one you're going to do. Right now it's selected as matrix 1. You can tell that because it's the yellow one. So if you come down here to matrix 4 and then you hit assign, now matrix 4 is going to be, now whatever you send to this bus right here, matrix 4, is going to be what comes out of the back here. So right here are our outputs. So it's going to be coming out of output 11, which is right down here. So that's how you program it. If you want it to come out of a certain one of these, program it using the in and out 16. Okay. So what this section right here is the monitor and talkback section. So the monitor are these two little speakers right here. So we use these two speakers to monitor each mic when they're not on stage, or while they're on stage. So This is very, very useful for if you have a microphone change backstage and they're going to come on in the next number or in the next scene, and you need to test to just make sure that their mic is working, they have it on, and everything's ready for them to come on stage. So there's a couple of things you need to know. This mono button doesn't do a whole ton. It just makes it a mono signal instead of a stereo signal. But that doesn't really make a difference since it's right here. And anyway, so but this little button right here that says dim on it, if it's on, you're not going to hear anything. You have to take off the dim and turn up the monitor level. So now if we come down here to this section, ready? Yeah. Now if we come down here to this section, the way you listen to a specific one through these speakers up here through the through the monitors, is you click solo. So if you tap the solo button, it lights up. It's gonna come through these two speakers up here. You can probably hear that it's picking up the hanging mics that are on the stage right now. So this is the volume control right here. You use this, and we also have a phones level right here, which is for a set of headphones that you'd plug into one of the headphone jacks here on the side. So that's the monitor section. This is the talkback section. So I'm going to come over here to view. So what this is we call it the God mic because when you use the microphone that comes over here to this one right here, this is the God mic. When you use this microphone, it comes through everything in the whole entire auditorium. It comes through all the backstage monitors. It comes through the mains. It comes through everything. And it's very useful for making pre-show announcements or calling during rehearsal to get actors to come on stage or stuff like that. So what you do is you control the volume level with this knob right here. And now I usually keep it at a good level of about right there, because then it's not too loud, or well, it is actually pretty loud, but it's not to the point where it's overpowering and deafening, but it's not too quiet. So the way you select what comes out is I've separated it into talkback A and talkback B. Now, you just press it and they stay on. So, if you press talkback A, if you come up here, you can see what you can do. So, if you come up here to set, you hit the select button, and because we want it to come through all of the ones that are in front of the proscenium that the audience will hear, we're going to go 1, 2, and 3. Okay? And then we also want to select the left and right here, because that means it'll come out of the mains. Now, if we tab over using this page select button to talkback B, we can see that it's coming through 4, 5, and 6, which is all the backstage monitors. And so, like I said, this is very useful and something you're going to need to know if you're ever using this in this auditorium. Okay. So right down here we have our mute groups, okay? So the mute groups are groups of microphones that when you push this button right here, it turns on and off their mutes. So, as you can see, number 1 is these 3 microphones right here. And actually that's set up incorrectly right now, so I'm going to go back and change it here in a minute. I'll show you how to do that. Number 2 are these 3 microphones right here. And then we have our handhelds right here. And then right here are the lapels. So if you push it on, they all come on, they all come off. That makes it pretty simple, you know? So the way that you change something is you come up here, you have these buttons right here on the side of the screen. You press mute, okay? And then you hold, and then you press this one, and it's going to show you what's selected. Now you have to have this on, otherwise you're just turning it on and off. This allows you to edit it. So like we need to add this microphone to this mute group because it's part of the same group. You just put it like that, and then you take off the mute group button, and now they're all on the same one. So it's pretty easy. You can do that with anything. You can do it with buses, auxiliaries, effects racks. It doesn't matter. If it has a mute button on it, you can assign it to this, okay? So that's very useful for a lot of people coming on and off the stage at the same time. Right here is the assignables section. So this is a really awesome section. I love using this, it's easy to use once you learn how. So what this is we have 4 encoders right here that allow us, that are like the knobs that you see on other places on the board, and we have we have 8 buttons right here. And then we have 3 sets of these that can be programmed to different things. So the way you program this is you come up here, right here, to view, and then we can look at it up here. So if we look at it up here, we can see how there's home, set A, set B, and set C. So with home, this page right here allows us to configure the 4 knobs on each of the 3 pages right here. So, and it's very useful. But let's see here. And so if we come over here to set A, we select what we want to assign. So these are called encoders, and then we have the buttons down here. So we have encoder 1, 2, 3, 4, and then button 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12. So right now we have encoder 1 assigned to channel 8. Now if we come over here to channel 8, you'll notice as I turn this knob, this comes up and down over here. This was assigned to the fader control for that, so that way we can control the input from the stage. If they're playing a track or there's a piano on the stage, we can control that from up here in the booth while working on something else. It's very useful for stuff like that. This right here is DCA3. You'll notice as I turn this one goes up and down. And then we have aux5 and aux6. So what these do is these control the computer volume that comes through the auxiliary up here in the booth. So that's very useful, but you can change it as needed. That's the great thing about this. With all this stuff over here, all this stuff right here, this is how it is. You can change with this one you can change more so what's assigned to it, but this is sort of just how it is. With this right here, you can change it to be whatever you need for your show. And then we have our buttons. So if we come down here to our buttons, we can see what's assigned to it. So right here we have assigned on these buttons, we have our handheld mute buttons 1 through 8. So if you look right here, these are all the handhelds that can be unmuted. Very useful if you're working on something else and need to change to something like that. Okay, so this page is what I'm gonna configure. So if we go to set B, we're gonna go to, and you can also change the color. It's good to keep colors on different pages using this encoder up here. But let's make it yellow, just because. So if we come up here to encoder 1, you can see we can leave it not assigned. If we leave it not assigned, it's not going to do anything. But we can do something like, let's say we want to do ascent. So you can select what channel. Let's say we want to do channel 8 because Mr. Blackburn always says he wants more volume or it needs to be different places on Torium. So you can select channel 8 and then you go to send, and then you select what bus you want to send it to. He is usually on bus number 1, so we're going to just leave it on bus number 1, but let's say if we moved him to bus number 5, we could do that. And now channel 8, if we do select sends on fader, you can see that as we change this, it goes to the right monitor. So it's really useful for stuff like that. That's why I really do love this section. And so it's pretty straightforward. You go through and you assign what you need. On this last page here, we have bus 14, and this will bring me to effects here in a minute. So all these are assigned to different aspects of the pitch shift effect that we use sometimes in shows and other places. So there's the assignable section for you. So what this is up here is how we're going to deal with our effects. So if we come down here to this tab button right here, that is effects, and we push on it, it'll bring up our effects rack right here. So the way our board is set up right now, we only use effects 1, 2, 3, and 4. And really, we never use more than one effect in a show, so we only ever use one effect. But And down here we have our buses that these come through. So the way it works is you have the effect, and you send a certain microphone through that bus with the effects rack are these right here. These have to be unmuted for the effect to work. So if your effect isn't working, make sure the effects rack is unmuted. So the way it works is you send a microphone through the bus that has the effects rack on it, and what that does is it changes the way the microphone sounds for whatever purpose that effect has been set up for. During the last show, the Blast this past year, we used gated reverb. Now this was nice because we were able to give some of the singers a really nice, stronger resonance to their voice using this effect. So if we come up here, I'm going to come up here to our gated reverb. Now we change what bus it goes through by selecting using this button. Now these have been we've set these right here, and we should probably just leave that as is. So if we come over here and we hit edit, what this is going to do is it's going to bring up the specifics of each effect. Now I'm not an expert on effects. I sort of know how to use reverb and I know how to use pitch shift, but if you're going to want more information, you're going to need to find a YouTube video or someplace else to get more information about how to use different effects. But if we come up here, you can see we can use these two buttons right here to shift between our two options right here. So this is really great because it's all right here. You can change it from all right here, and it's really easy to use. So enough said about that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how to put an effect on someone's microphone. So we're going to use my microphone today. So I'm going to hit, so what you do is you hit select, sends on fader, and you can see the gated reverb is already up. So what you do is you make sure it's unmuted on sends on fader, and then you have to bring up the sends on fader level. Now, usually what I do, the way I do it is I unmute this right here, I bring this up to 0, and then I do it with the control sends on fader. That way, I find I have a little more control over it that way, and it works a little better. But you also have to remember that you have to come over here to the effects returns and make sure that these are all unmuted. There have been a couple of times where I've been in the middle of a show, put on an effect, and I've forgotten to turn this on, and it doesn't come on, and it's kind of frustrating. So you always have to remember to have that up. I find that for these we need to keep it at -5, otherwise we get what I call digital reverb, which is where I don't know, you can mute everything and the reverb keeps happening, and it's really annoying. So you always want to keep these at -5, I found. Any higher than that, you run the risk of getting really bad feedback. So come up, you select your mic, you send on fader, and then as you bring this up, the effect will get more and more and more strong. So as you bring it all the way up, you get stronger and stronger, and it changes the voice more and more. But you have to be careful, especially with reverb, not to bring it up too high, because if you bring it up too high, you run the risk of getting feedback, and it can sound terrible, and just quite frankly, it can sound a little cheesy during a show if you're, making someone sound like they're singing through a tunnel. So just have to be careful with that. Like I said, if you want some more information about how to do the specifics of the effects, you're going to want to go find a YouTube video, ask someone who knows. I learned a lot what I know about effects from YouTube videos and people coming in and helping me. So good luck with that. Okay. Yeah. So now I'm going to talk about scenes. So if we want to look at the scenes, we hit the view button, we come up here. Now, first a word about scenes before we get started with them. They are extremely useful for big shows where you have a lot of people coming on and off at the same time, like a big choir show. Like I always use it for our school's choir show in the spring, and it would sometimes be useful for some musicals. But the thing is, once you get a lot of people coming off and there's like 3 sub-scenes in a scene, it starts to get a little cumbersome, and it's easier to just hit the mute button instead of programming a scene and hitting the go confirm button. So that's just a word on scenes before we start. So the way a scene works is it takes a snapshot of the board and saves it. So right now I'm in scene 01, and it's blast : basic. So what that means is this is the basic scene that I'm going to build everything off of. So and the next show we have is the opening black cast from the Addams Family this year, the opening red cast from the Addams Family this year, a Christmas rental we had, Fiddler on the Roof, the Grand Review, and the dance concert. So it's always good to delete the shows. I usually keep them till the end of the year because sometimes we draw elements off of previous shows to carry to other shows, so we know how to do it. That's the reason why we've saved these. Other than a basic show, which we always keep. Now, if we all of a sudden had a band that came in here and played every Saturday evening, I would make a scene just for them that is set up for them, so that way they can come in and everything would be ready for them. We wouldn't have to reconfigure it every single time. So, excuse me. If you come up here and you use this first knob, which is the go button, you select which scene you want to go to. Now I want to go to the opening black scene. So I push the knob down, then I have to hit the confirm button, which is this arrow this way. Now watch this magic. See? Everything changed. Everything changed on this board. We have different buses over here now. We have different names on each one of these. It's really useful. It's very useful for stuff like that. So and then you want to go to a different scene. You just, let's say we want Fiddler on the Roof. We hit go. Come over here, and then exact same thing. So now if you oftentimes during a show, like for the blast, I had I think 80 scenes for that show because there was anyways, there's a lot of numbers in that show, and there was several sub scenes in each, in a couple of cues. But what I would be doing is I'd be working on something, adjusting stuff for someone's mic because they sounded a little tinny or something like that. What you do is you have this little scenes tab right here, which is really useful. You hit next right here, this button right here, and then you hit go right here, and then you confirm, and you don't have to use anything like that up there. I really like it. So if you remember, I had made a mix earlier on the basic scene. Now if I go back, it's not going to be there, and that's because I didn't save it before I left. I'll show you how to save it. So what you do is you come over to the second knob, you hit select, you hit save, and then it's going to ask you to put in a scene name, and I'm just going to leave it as the same one, and then I'm going to hit save, and then I have to confirm it. Now if I go to Fiddler on the Roof, it's going to go like this. Now because I saved it, when I come back it's going to be that specific mix. Because that's not because that's not the mix, I'm going to just save it over as what I want it to be. Now it's, like I said, it's really useful. You can change anything about it. So if we come up here to home and we come over here to EQ, now if you'll notice that there are a couple different EQ modes I can use. So the way I do it is I use this one right here, and what you can do is you can come down here and you can do some stuff to bring the bass up, and it's fun to do that. So what I usually do is I start with the auxiliary input wherever the music is coming in, and you can change how much the bass is brought up. Now the way you do that is you come over here and you go up positive, and then you make the Q large. Now and then you bring the frequency, and that's one way we can do it, because this specific one is not set up for a low cut or a low shelf. This is the way you do it. Now, because I'm not trying to listen to music right now, we actually had something. I'm going to put this back to what it was. All right, there. So, the best way to get get the bass heavy effect out of music is you come over here, you select the mains. So, I was just checking to make sure my microphone was muted so I could turn up the main volume, and they want to hear my voice, Anyway, sorry. You can cut that part out.
Yes, I will.
Okay. So you come over here and you hit the select button for the Housemaster. So and then you come over here to the EQ. So the way our speakers are EQ'd, we have PEQ, VEQ, low cut, and low shelf. So for a show, it always needs to be on low cut. So what that does is it cuts out our subwoofers at 125 hertz is really where it starts cutting things out, and 25, because at 120 below 125, different parts of the ceiling start rumbling a lot, and you hit resonant frequencies, and it doesn't sound very good. So we've just learned that that's where we cut out the low. But for listening to bass heavy music, I always put it on low shelf, which is the next setting. Now what you can do is you can take the gain and you can bring it all the way up like this, and then because the bass is down here, what that's going to do is that's going to bring the bass up really heavy, and even the really low frequencies that were cut out before are now going to be brought up. And that's fun for, like I said, listening to music and feeling it in your gut. Anyway, so there's that on EQing the mains, but like I said, it should always be on low shelf. So that may be different for other auditoriums, but here at the school. Anyway, well, it's been nice talking to you guys, and have a good time working with X32. It's a great sound mixer.